What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, the Green Bay Packers podcast for the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the Eurostep Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me, pre-winter blizzard, pre-Aaron Rodgers decision, is my lovely co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, we have a store in front over to the northeast. Flight patterns coming over the west. Um, I'm gearing up for whatever they're calling this coming blizzard, Aaron Watch, Aaron Apocalypse. Um, no, I don't think it's 12 inches of snow, but it would be a fitting number considering where we are at in uh hacker sphere, I guess.
That is right. It wouldn't be a Packers offseason as of late without Aaron Rodgers news and the Tundra. So we're a bit eager for the Aaron Rodgers news, folks. Just a little bit. So we'll get into him in a minute. But a free agency preview this week. Free agency tampering begins next week. I believe it is. I think it's Monday or Wednesday. It starts.
Monday is the tampering period opening.
Right.
Wednesday is when contracts can be agreed to.
Perfect.
I believe that's how they
I
term
think
it.
so. Um. Yes. The free agency frenzy kicks off on March 15th, which is a week from Wednesday, which means yeah, tampering begins on Monday. So, we're just 4 short days, yeah, 4, 5 short days away from a whole bunch of news and kind of a changing of the guard in the NFL, depending on where a lot of these high profile name quarterbacks go, and a lot of trades probably being discussed, like signing trades, maybe Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo. Trying to think of other big names. Jesse Bates, we'll talk about him a little bit later as possibly a
Hmm.
Packers target. But before we get started, head over to Repod. Been saying it for a couple months now. We're doing famously over there. Join, building the community, listen to podcasts. Just another week, another Twitter issue between Elon Musk actively just going at a disabled person, and it just breaking again. So no HR department over at Twitter allegedly, and Repod's still going strong, building the community, talking podcasts, and just talking all good things at GSPN. So head over to Repod, join us in Talk of the Tundra, Packers, Cruising for a Bruising and Bruisers, the Eurostep Boys and the Bucks, all good stuff. So let's address the green elephant in the room. This week, we got a lot of news out of the Aaron Rodgers department. It seemed like uh, it kind of picked up all at once as soon as the combine was over. Not to pat myself on the back or anything. We're still waiting a decision from last for waiting a decision this week after I predicted we'd get a decision this week. Um, but the Jets and their brass flew out to California to talk with Aaron Rodgers and probably give him their pitch as to why he should be open to playing in New Jersey. And no one really knows how it went. I saw an interesting little tidbit on Twitter that I think it was 2 years ago. Nathaniel Hackett and his crew and Matt LaFleur and the Packers brass flew to California to convince Rodgers to play for the Packers. And now 2 years later, this offensive coordinator is once again flying out to California to convince Aaron Rodgers to play for his team, this time being the New York Jets. So there's been a lot of reporting this week just of all this activity, which makes it seem like something is imminent, but also kind of signals that the Packers are ready to move on from Rodgers. Like this would all, for all intents and purposes, means the Packers give the Jets permission to tamper and talk to Rodgers while he's under contract. And I'm not going to say like I'm happy about it. Like I'm happy that discussions are being had. But this is the whole discussion we've had this offseason of how do we feel about Aaron Rodgers leaving the franchise and this, that, and the other. I know my feelings are a little bit different than yours, Jordan. Jordan, what did you think of when you heard the news that there were wheels up from New York headed to California?
A siren just passed my house, so that was not me just being awkwardly silent. Um, how did I feel? It's interesting because I feel like we all felt like this was likely, um, as much as especially we were here last we were here last week talking about Brian Gutekunst's comments at the combine and just the kind of uh, impersonal nature in which he talked about his relationship with Aaron Rodgers and just, are they going to bring it back? Do they have a willingness to bring it back? Blah, blah, blah. Like all that stuff. It just felt like based on how that was and just kind of reading both sides and comments made, podcast appearances, and whatever else has been in the ether of since the turn of the year. Um, it just felt like, okay, well, eventually it's going to read towards if he wants to play, he's played for another team. The Jets have been the most talked about team. They are arguably the most desperate team, especially since the Saints, I guess, avoided the start of free agency and just said, like, yeah, we're going to go after Derek Carr. That's what we're doing already. That was the biggest free agent quarterback on the market. So Jets don't really have any options.
Right.
Um,
Well, they technically do. They just don't feel like signing Lamar Jackson for some reason or trading for him.
yeah, I guess that's true.
Technically a trade, but like a a non-exclusive franchise tag. So how do you want to navigate that as a franchise? I would think that non-biasedly that Lamar Jackson probably fits their timeline a whole lot better than Aaron Rodgers does. And you'd be giving up probably similar assets, probably a couple more players and a couple more picks since Lamar Jackson's younger. But I'm not gonna be upset if the Jets choose Rodgers over Lamar Jackson.
Yes, I would not be upset. Yeah, the Lamar thing is a very different
Yeah, we
animal.
won't get into it, but they have
But
options that are really choosing the 38-year-old quarterback.
exactly. And former United Kingdom ambassador Woody Johnson flying out to see good
Did not
old
know that.
Aaron. Yes, he was
Yeah, did not know that.
under Trump.
Oh,
Um,
got it.
yeah.
Got it.
Um, flying out to see. So yeah, having the owner, the GM, Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh, I guess Joe Namath, um, whoever.
Was it really Joe Namath?
I don't know. I
Okay,
would
because I
hope
know
so.
like Sala, Hackett, the owner, and the GM all went. But I feel like if Joe Namath is going,
Mark Sanchez, the butt fumble. Let's see, any big Jets brass that are going out to
any
Northern
Jets pop
California.
culture reference.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Um,
gave Aaron Rodgers,
the fireman guy, Fireman Ed, or whatever
yeah,
his name is.
they gave Aaron Rodgers Joe Namath's fur coat as like a little memento.
Just we'll give you something to remember us by.
Right.
Um, yeah, I guess I was just I don't know. I'm at this point where it's like everything just kind of feels right.
It kind of
You know what I
feels,
mean?
yeah, it kind of feels like inevitable, right? Like I feel like we're just like waiting for the shoe to drop at this point. I'd be, I was like before the combine, I thought we'd get a decision this week, either one way or the other. Like either he's playing for Green Bay or he's getting traded. I didn't think
Yeah.
he was retiring, but the longer or the days have gone by since then, and now reports coming out this week, I think it's more leaning towards him playing in New York, just because you don't really give a team permission to go seek out a trade unless you as a franchise are expecting to trade him. And
Yes.
that kind of, I don't want to say is like a twisting of the knife because that's not the right saying, but it's more so indicative of where the franchise is headed. And so if you're signaling to Aaron Rodgers like, hey, you can go talk to whoever you want to talk to, look for a trade. I'm guessing Rodgers kind of sees the writing on the wall. They're like, hey, maybe they don't want me back as much as they did in the past couple years. Maybe I don't want to go back and maybe see something fresh and new and try and do a Peyton Manning, do a Tom Brady of going playing for one last team and trying to get a Super Bowl win, especially with a young team with a lot of talent. Like that's exactly how those legends of the quarterback position did it. Peyton Manning went to a young Broncos team with talented wideouts and Demaryius Thomas, and I think Emmanuel Sanders was there at the time.
Yeah.
And Brady went to Tampa Bay with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and the Jets don't have that sort of star power, but they're getting there with wide receiver. I don't know why the wide receiver's name has escaped me at the moment.
Garrett
Jameson,
Wilson.
yeah, Garrett Wilson, not Jameson Crowder. Jameson Crowder's not right. Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, like they have weapons, especially with Brees Hall at the running back position. It's a good defense. Like they have a
Good
talented
defense.
team. They're the model of getting the quarterback last, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So this is their chance to go do it. I think I saw something today that like two of the biggest sports books in the country, the most money to win the Super Bowl next year is on the Jets. So Vegas might know something and people might think of something, but
I think Patrick Mahomes might have something else to say about that.
yeah, I agree. But they just cut Frank Clark because of cap issues, so we'll see. You muted yourself, I think, or I didn't hear you.
I whispered it. That might be better off for him.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I do think that if the Jets get Rodgers, they're in a way better position than they are currently. Because currently they're rolling out either the corpse of Zach Wilson again, the young corpse of Zach Wilson, or Mike White
Joe
or
Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Like their options aren't really there at the moment. I think they'd get an upgrade somewhere else, but if you can go get Aaron Rodgers for a trade and give up a couple firsts that you think that you'll have late first at that point, I see their point. So it just feels like we're headed toward a trade as of 9:07 p.m. recording this on a Wednesday. I think we hear by
Oh,
by Friday night.
oh,
That what?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, putting a timestamp on when he's going to get traded, everybody's going to be, I know.
I don't care. Like
I know, I
I
know.
I I firmly believe that it gets done before free agency. Like because
Well,
because
that
at that point
is,
the Jets need to get a quarterback and they need to get one early because they didn't get Derek Carr, and if they don't have a deal in with Aaron Rodgers, they need to start picking up some of these quarterbacks that are available. They're not good, but they're definitely like needed. Like you can go after Carson Wentz, which isn't a good idea. Marcus Mariota isn't a good idea. Maybe they want to go get Jimmy G. Like Jimmy G is going to be like the commodity at quarterback, I think. And excuse me, if you wait for Rodgers into free agency tampering, then you might miss out on Jimmy G. It's like that's kind of where my thought process is in thinking that they get something done. If they get something done, probably by Friday night, Saturday,
yeah.
because man, oh man, the quarterback class is basura. Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, who's not playing, Marcus Mariota, Baker Mayfield.
I wouldn't count out Tom.
Tom Brady said he has to take care of a baby kitten. Marcus Mariota, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy G, Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph. Like Jacoby Brissett was fine last year in Cleveland. Andy Dalton was fine last year in New Orleans, probably bad. Like there isn't a lot here, and the Jets want to compete
I think the Jets
now.
have had three of the quarterbacks that you mentioned between Bridgewater,
I
Darnold.
don't think they had Bridgewater. They had Darnold.
Bridgewater was on them, and they traded him to the Saints.
Oh yuck! I didn't know that.
Yeah. Um.
So that's just my prediction and my thought process. Like they are really hamstrung by a very bad QB free agency class and the need to compete now before Sauce gets expensive in a couple of years, before Garrett Wilson gets expensive in a couple of
mhm.
years, before Brees Hall gets expensive
Paul.
in a couple of years. Like this is the time to be competitive for a team that is very cheap right now.
Agreed. They're the most desperate franchise for a quarterback in quite some time, just because there's a good team within there.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about their situation. They lost the last 6 games of the season last year. They should have been a playoff team. Is
Yeah.
frankly inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. The thing that makes me pause about, like, we'll see it by Friday at the weekend, basically before the start of free agency, is that given what has been floated out there in terms of talks of return for the Packers, um, what if, if it's strictly just draft compensation, that might linger into start of free agency. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like of course, if there are players involved beyond just Rodgers, that would change up, obviously, both teams' cap situation.
You think the compensation they get from Rodgers might make them want to hold on to him for longer? Like, say the Jets aren't offering enough for him, essentially. They want to see what they can get out of him.
Well, I think you and I would agree that you don't go this. None of the recent stuff, none of the flying to Rogers' home in California happens without some parameters in place about what a deal looks like.
Right.
But there's always going to be haggling, and
Right.
you obviously sound out where Rogers is at, how long he thinks he's going to actually play. What if it's just a 1 year rental thing?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they might just be like, well, we look at all these situations. You want to move on from Aaron Rodgers, look at Brian Gutekunst, and be like, we're not going to give you a first round pick or whatever,
Right. No.
that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'd be really surprised if like the Jets came to this table and Goody allowed them to go tamper without offering like a nice package, which
Oh, of
includes a
course.
first and probably another first for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if Goody did let them go tamper for anything less than a single first, then that's gonna be what's I think sinks him as a Green Bay general manager. But I just don't see that as any sort of foreseeable option. If he does, I'll get on this here podcast and drop F bombs like you wouldn't even believe because I'll be so upset at the lack of value they would have gotten from Aaron Rodgers, who's still a above average quarterback. He's probably the best quarterback they can go get on the market. Like that fits what they have as a team. Like you can say, yeah, sure, Lamar Jackson, but I think they said the Jets weren't gonna do that. But mostly because I think Lamar wants a fully guaranteed deal, and I don't think the Jets want to give him a fully guaranteed deal. The point being is that of the obtainable quarterbacks that they can get, I think it's Aaron Rodgers, a small gap to then Jimmy G, and then quite a large chasm to anybody else.
Yeah.
And like if the Jets
And
don't
it's not
land,
drafting a quarterback because, well, look at what they did with a high draft pick not even 2 years ago.
right, and I don't think they have. I'm not sure it's within their best. It might be, but I'm not sure who they're trading with to get that high draft pick to get C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, or Will Levis. Like
Anthony
maybe
Richardson.
the Cardinals, maybe. Like I think they're three. They could grab one there, one of the three. But I think that takes 13. That takes 24's first. It takes 25's first. It's probably like a 5-6 pick deal.
That's
It's a
Yeah,
huge
that's
it's a
selling the
huge deal.
farm
That's selling the
rather
farm.
than, like, the Packers would probably want to get a top thing and be like, okay, let's fill it out the rest from here.
I want to wrap up relatively soon since it's been 20 minutes of Rogers talk already.
Has
But
it
like,
already?
yeah. But I think like if I'm the Jets, a first, and a second for Rogers if he tells you that he's playing like at least 1 or 2 more years, probably two, to give it a chance and not just a 1 year thing. A first, and a second is way more appetizing to eat as a bad deal if it does turn out poorly than a first, a second, and probably a player to the Cardinals or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that cripples a franchise's ability to to build if the quarterback doesn't work out. Which I don't think that's really a possibility for Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, but I think it's definitely easier to go get a rookie quarterback in 2-3 years than in 5 years at that point. So
Yeah. You
anything else on
know,
Rodgers?
maybe they just draft his understudy and his heir apparent.
I'm not even gonna touch that. I'm not touching it. Not touching it. So yeah,
Uh,
we'll come to you guys with the hot news of Aaron Rodgers' decision when it drops. But as of right now, 21 minutes exactly into the podcast, let's talk some free agency candidates. We're gonna go through who stays, who goes, should he stay or should he go, and then some outside, some outside. I don't say capital. That sounds extremely gross. Some outside guys that can that we could possibly target to bolster this team to maybe sneak into a wild card position this year. So, um, who stays, who goes? I have the list, Jordan, of all the Packers free agents, and we're not going any particular order. I'm pretty sure this order is just random, according to
okay.
Spotrac, because it was on Spotrac. So,
Also, I want to make a disclaimer.
disclaimer. Okay, well, just
I know there will be people that will be like, oh, of course, look at his cap hit and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. I'm not a cap guy, but it's I think more of where I was
you're more
coming
of a beanie
from.
guy.
Touche. Where I'm coming from with this is, do the Packers have willingness to bring this guy back based on their play last year?
That's what I'm going off of as well. I'm not going
Okay.
off of
Just
cap
want to make it
issues
very clear.
because the cap isn't real. Also, so I'm going off the Packers' propensity to bring the player back, not just cap issues. Like
Yes.
cap works for like some of mine, admittedly, but not too many.
Yeah.
So first up in the order, the aardvark himself, Adrian Amos, double A.
Double A batteries.
Bad joke.
Um,
Bad joke.
um, I think he goes.
I also think he goes. I don't like. I think Goody signaling at the combine that they're looking to make a change at safety was like pretty telling. That I think him and two other safeties are probably gone. Darnell Savage isn't on this list because he has his 5th year. I do think they try to get him off somewhere, but we shall see. I
Mhm.
have an idea for later about Darnell Savage, but we'll talk about it later.
Ooh,
Little sprinkling,
little
little
sprinkle
tease.
teaser.
Um, Corn on the cob himself, Randall Cobb.
Um, since we last recorded, there was the Ian Rappaport tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Contemplating ankle surgery, or
He
is
had ankle
had
surgery.
ankle surgery. That's right.
Yep. So if he chooses to
Um,
play, he'll be healthy and not hampered by that injury he's been having for the last, I think, 2 years.
I think he also goes. Does he go with Rodgers?
So I think he goes with Rodgers where he goes. The Jets just cleared some cap today from reworking somebody's contract who I forget, but it was
And then CJ
yep, CJ
Uzoma.
Uzama, the old Bengals tight end.
Okay.
Um,
I think
yeah,
I totally butchered his
yeah,
name.
CJ Uzama.
Okay.
I think they cleared like $3-4 million off of his contract. If I think if Rodgers stays, Cobb stays, and I think if Rodgers goes, Cobb goes. Frankly, as much as I
Yeah.
would like him to stay to help be like a safety valve and security blanket for Jordan Love, I just don't think it's in the cards. I think like Cobb wants to play with Rodgers at this point in his career.
Yeah.
Mr. Dean Lowry
Goes.
goes.
I think his play last year certainly took a turn for the worse. He got hurt at the end by the end
Yep.
of the season. They are kind of at a good spot with the line too between Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Jaron Reed is obviously a free agent, but who knows? Maybe they bring him back as
I
well.
have him as stays on my list.
Oh, we're knocking two birds with one stone.
Well, you mentioned him, and like
Yeah, that's true.
he's down the list. Like I'm not gonna tease that out. I have Jared Reed
uh,
staying because, in part, of Dean Lowry going
yeah, you'd have more of a future role. Yeah, I think I'll go stay.
for Jaron Reed,
Yeah, but go for
Dean Lowry.
Dean Lowry.
Yeah, I
Stay
think
for Reed.
yes,
Go for Lowry.
yes. Um, yeah, we talked about during his grade and just in general sucks, but he just doesn't have it. I don't think anymore. Not that he didn't have it like previously. I just think he's dwindled in play. So I'd rather
Yeah.
go get somebody else than use his money elsewhere. Um, Father Time himself, Mason Crosby, stays for me, regrettably.
Oh. I think okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm ready.
You're
I think he stays.
okay.
I think he gets replaced mid-season next year.
Mid-season next year,
I think
like this coming season or next
this
season?
coming season, I think it's something's not going to go well. He's going to have like a bad game, and it's like, okay, we're cutting ties.
That's ominous.
I mean, it's happened twice before. They never pulled the trigger on it, and
Right.
good for them for not doing it.
All right, so in
But
this situation, you're saying Mason Crosby is the broken-legged horse, and the Packers are on the track. Is that what you're trying to say, Jordan?
I mean, we see kickers out there
Right.
all the time. Matt Gay got cut by the Rams. Robbie Gould is going to be a free agent.
Yeah. I think they stick with him through the year, either way, because I think they understand this year is probably a transition year anyways. And I don't know if they would do that to Mason Crosby considering his role within the franchise. I think they probably just let him ride it out or let him retire and not have him be cut. Like I don't think the announcement would be the Packers have cut Mason Crosby per sources. I think it would be Mason Crosby and the Green Bay Packers have decided to part ways and let Mason Crosby enter retirement. Does that make sense?
They didn't do it for Big Mac.
For Hoopst?
Big Mac. Mike McCarthy.
Mark McGuire?
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, because Mike McCarthy sucked. Like he was horrendous those last 2 years. He lost to like the 3-13 Cardinals at that point.
Yeah, the Steve Wilkes Cardinals.
Right. Like Mike McCarthy got fired because it was poor performance. And he's like Mason Crosby's been around longer than Mike McCarthy was.
Well, at this point, yes.
And is the Packers leading point scorer of all time.
It's
And is
true.
beloved.
He is beloved. Same.
Doesn't have a bad relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Like I can keep going on like why McCarthy got
I know. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this. About everybody's talking about Rodgers. No one's talking about Mason Crosby.
You said
Will he
that
stay or
last
will he
week.
go? Who is following Woody Johnson's flight plans to Mason Crosby's house?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah, I think he stays. I think he stays and probably his last year.
Yeah.
We'll see. Depending on how he performs this year, because like obviously he was battling injury last year, but I'd imagine stays and then retires next year. The Lizard King, Alan Lazard.
Goes.
I think he goes. I think the Packers want to be able to afford to keep him. The Packers TM franchise. I don't think they'll be able to. I think he's in a bag chase and get all that he's worth from a probably Chicago Bears team. And I don't think it's too far into tampering that we hear about it. Frankly.
No. I mean, I see this from an NBA lens, but it's always like, oh, they're the first Timothy Mozgov was the most like egregious example, but
Right.
like that's like the first player that gets signed. Ursan Ilyasova was always this for the Bucks.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, Lazard feels that kind of like tier of like, oh, that was done in place like January 15th.
Yeah, 2 seconds into the offseason. Yeah. Yeah, I think he goes. I think he has value on the Packers, but you guys all know my opinion on Alan Lazard and his play this year. I think he has value. I don't think the Packers want to pay what Alan Lazard's value think he is, and I don't think Alan Lazard wants to play for the value the Packers want to pay him at.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I see a reality in which they do keep him, but it's like of all the realities in the universe, in the multi universes, there's like one maybe.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, Robert Tunyon Jr. I know this one was tough for me too. The next two are tough
It's
for me.
so dependent on what they do with the draft or how they view the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think they like Tunyon enough where they might go a little bit like, as you mentioned with Cobb, there is still some uncertainty with the Packers pass catchers,
Yep.
both wide receiver and tight end, that
Yep.
I could see them being like, oh, let's bring back Bobby at like a reasonable number and
What do you
then figure it out last or later.
just as like a rough guess? I'm curious as to what you think a reasonable number would be for Bobby Tunyon. He got paid $3.5 million last year.
Oh, tight end. The other
I
thing
know
too,
it's hard.
tight end now the last couple of years has been really super top heavy.
Mm-hmm. I asked this because Spotrac has a market value that they
Could I
calculated.
guess? Can I
Yeah.
guess it?
Yep. Go ahead. But I'm just asking because I have what Spotrac thinks he's worth for a 1 year deal.
For a 1 year deal, I'll go 6.25.
They have him at estimated at 5. So like,
I went higher.
yeah,
But yeah, that sounds right.
and like I wouldn't mind bringing it back for either of those numbers, frankly, on a 1 year deal. But I really think it depends on everything that needs to fall into place. Like the Rodgers deal needs to happen, or the Rodgers decision needs to happen.
More so, yeah.
Then they need to figure out Mercedes, who we'll talk about in a second, and then Tyler Davis has a decision like for them, and then how do they view the draft between Darnell Washington, who looked like the next Mercedes Lewis and is the strongest man I've seen at a combine and at a tight end position, Michael Maher or Mayer, um, who's the other one? Dalton
Dalton
Kincaid. Yeah, Dalton
Kincaid.
Kincaid. Like they have options at tight end if they want to do it, to where they could move on from Bobby Tunyon. It's just like if you don't bring back Bobby Tunyon and you maybe bring back Tyler Davis, it kind of leaves you in what's the word? I can't think of the word. Leaves you out in the open. Leaves you vulnerable to whiffing on the draft, I'll say. Like there's three major tight ends that they could get, like Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, and Darnell Washington. After seeing the combine, I would love a Darnell Washington as a pass catcher and as a pure strong blocker. But you're one of 32 teams probably trying to draft Darnell Washington. And if
Yeah.
you whiff on him because you aren't picking him at 15, you'd have to pick him probably in the second round as a reach if you wanted to get him before he's probably valued in the third round, which I think it works out. But is tight end where you want to spend a second round pick value? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's a whole issue the Packers need to work out with, and that's where kind of this Bobby Tunyon contract lies. There's a lot of
I'm going to
decisions
call it
around that
now.
one. Go ahead.
I'm going to call it now. They're going to bring back Tunyon and still draft a tight end this year.
I think that's the best way to do it. Like double
Yeah.
dip as Goody likes to do. We'll go to the next two tight ends now because I think it makes sense to talk about them right now. What do you think they do with Mercedes?
I think he's gone.
So on my sheet I said I don't know with like 17 Ks because I just really don't know, because I think Mercedes Lewis likes playing with Aaron Rodgers, but excuse me, he also loves playing for Matt LaFleur, and I think that leaves open both doors to either join Rodgers in New York if he wants, or stay and finish out his career for Matt LaFleur. Like, I think all the options for Marcedes Lewis are open. I don't think he would require a big deal, like a couple million.
Yeah.
And so it's really just what he wants to do. This isn't a Packers decision. I think this is the Marcedes Lewis decision. Because I think if the Packers had the option, they'd sign him for like pennies to have him there because they value him as a player. But I don't think it's as easy as the Packers just bringing him back because they can. It's a Marcedes decision, I think, which is again why we need to wait for the Rodgers decision.
Yeah, I mean, I view it very similar to Cobb to um Bakhtiari comes with its own different circumstances, and I'm not saying like that's a package deal, but the obvious like, well, if they move on from Rodgers, what did they do with Bakhtiari? What does he feel about that and all that stuff? But with Mercedes Lewis, it's pretty. I mean, he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I think he's like likes playing for LaFleur, I think just the allure of playing for a winner, just that's what got him to Green Bay in the first place. And
Trying to win a Super Bowl.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. Tyler Davis, that's the last tight end we have on the list.
Gone.
I think it's one or the other between him and Bobby Tunyon. They don't bring back both. It's one or the other. It doesn't make sense to bring them both back because they're kind of redundant in their roles.
Plus they have DeGuara,
right.
who's I know he's tight end H back.
Exactly. But like, yeah, I think like that's my point, right? Is that Bobby Tunyon is a good blocker, but also a good pass catcher. Tyler Davis, not so much as a good blocker, but a fine pass catcher. I don't think it makes sense to bring back both of them, and I would hope the Packers agree with that sentiment. So it's either bring back Tyler Davis for super cheap and let Tunyon walk, or bring back Tunyon on a modest deal and let Tyler Davis go find playing time somewhere else for a probably bad team.
Yeah, you're saying that much.
Right. Okay. Dalen Levitt.
I think back.
You think so?
Yeah.
I only ask you think so because I think Goody meant it when he said they're going to make changes at safety. And I know that Dale Levitt's a good special teams player.
I think I my thing is that feels more of a broad sweeping statement rather
No, I
than
agree.
just
Like besides Amos, I think that
yeah.
anybody is open to coming back and staying on in the safety unit. But was he that good? He didn't really play a whole lot of safety. He was more a special teams guy. And I think when he's out there, he wasn't that good. So I could see him coming back, but I wouldn't expect it. I have him as gone, frankly. And they'll just backfill special teams as they need to because you should be keeping players like specifically for special teams when they play at a position of need. Like if
Yeah.
Dylan Levitt played like corner, I'd say yeah, he's for sure back because he's a six-string corner and will just play special teams. But when they have positions of need at safety, then it's not like you have a roster limit of sorts, but I think it matters that he plays at a position that needs to be better overall. And I think you don't want to have like 7 safeties on the team going to the training camp. Or 8 safeties or however many. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think you want players who are expected to compete for that safety position, given that it's not in a good place right now. And I don't think he's going to compete at the safety position.
Yeah.
You know who would compete there?
Micah Abernathy.
That's right. That's right. But the stupid dirty birds down in Atlanta had to go steal my man's. Sign him to an NFL deal. Make his dreams come true. They had to go make his dreams come true and crush mine, Jordan. Do you understand how mad I still am about this? He was right there for the picking. Mr. Ballhawk, Micah Abernathy in green and gold, doing so good in preseason games, and he just gets picked off the practice squad. Stupid. Rudy Ford stays.
Yeah,
Stays for his play and his special teams play.
that's yeah. He feels like a very stopgap guy. I mean that
Yeah, agreed.
was what it was this year too.
I think he stays. I think he is a stopgap guy, but he's not awful as a stopgap guy.
No, yeah,
Like you
yeah,
can have worse players there, and I
yeah.
think his value he has on special teams like is way more than Dale Levitt, who's in like I think they're in similar positions, right? They're both special teams guys playing safety. I think Rudy Ford is a much better safety than Dale Levitt is, and that if push comes to shove, they could throw Rudy Ford back there as a third stringer or a second string safety.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it doesn't come to that, but it might.
Let's see if Darnell has
We'll
other
see.
thoughts.
Eric Wilson,
Gone.
gone. Keyshawn Nixon,
I said gone last week.
I know you did.
I'm sticking by it.
I think he stays. I think they have to keep him.
They have to, but
I think they have to. If they don't, they're going to be in a world. They're going to be right back where they were last year, and that's not good. I should say right back where they were with Amari Rodgers last year. Like like who we don't know who they'd throw back there at this point.
bring back Amari.
Shut up. You shut up and you quit saying that right now. Why would you say such a thing, Jordan Tresky? What in
Maybe
the
he's
world do you
reformed.
reformed? Who do you think you are? We said up and down for months and weeks on this podcast. Get rid of Amari. We can't have Amari on this podcast. He had 8 fumbles last year on a punt return. That's so many
His
fumbles.
eight.
Yeah, it was a lot. And you want to bring him back
Oh,
as a reunion just because he's the only A Rodgers on the team now. Who do you think you are? Call yourself a Green Bay Packers podcaster asking for Amari Rodgers to be back there
I give
muffing
people
punts
second
again.
chances.
I
You know,
don't. Yeah, I think they need to bring it back. Frankly, like what first touchdown return or kickoff return for touchdown in like a decade?
yeah.
2011, because it was the opening night after they won
2011
Super Bowl.
is
So
Cobb.
12 years.
Yeah.
This is a Keyshawn Nixon stand podcast, and here you go shipping them out. How dare you? Shame. You ring a shame bell.
It's following Rodgers to New York.
Oh God. No. No.
Sorry.
No. Justin Hollins.
I think stays.
I also think stays. I hope they keep him on like a cheap deal because he was really good at the end of the year. That's
I was impressed.
yeah, me as well. I hope they keep him. Chris Barnes.
Believe a restricted free agent.
Vamping.
That is what I saw on NFL trade rumors.
Let me double check Spotrac because I think there are a couple, and I think you might be right.
Okay.
NFL teams, Packers,
Yeah,
free
and yeah,
agents.
they got RFA on him too
You're,
on Spotrac.
yep, he's the only one. I lied. Tyler Davis is also a restricted free agent.
Yes.
But yeah, him and Chris Barnes. I think they let him walk.
Same.
Yeah. If he goes against
Linebacker is going to be
actually,
a.
I'll pause that. I think they let him walk if it's more than like $3 million.
Honestly, I don't think there's even a number in mind.
Okay.
Right? I don't know. I just think
I mean, I agree with you. I think they want to go somewhere else with him, but
and plus too, like he has had moments. It's just a matter of health,
yeah,
which has been slid over the last couple of years.
hmm
And I just think they have made such an investment in linebackers between Devondre, obviously drafting Quay Walker too. Like,
Enigbare, linebacker edge kind of guy.
yeah. I just think they
Justin
kind of
Hollins is technically a linebacker too.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Like, yeah.
He's kind of like Preston.
I just think that they like you make that investment and reap the rewards of doing that. Like,
Yeah.
if it's 4th round, 5th round, the draft. I know Chris Barnes is, I think, like a 7th rounder or whatever.
I think he was.
Or actually, no, he was a UFA.
Was he?
I think so. Um,
I know the
I
Packers
think
have. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I just think, you know, continue on that down that route and restock your linebacker position.
Yeah, the Packers also have um, five seventh round picks this year. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not really like concerned about losing a guy like Chris Barnes. Like, go see if you can find a diamond in the rough in the seventh round. Just a kind of guy like Kingsley Enagbare, late round pick last year, and is semi blossoming. So we'll see. Last but certainly not least, I think this will take a little bit of a discussion. Um, Yash Nyman.
Did I see Spotrac had a market value number for him?
Um,
Let me turn the table.
they
Let me turn
do.
the
They
table.
do. Do you want to look at it?
I'll look at it and I want to see what you say.
Okay. I say he goes regardless. But I will guess. I will try to guess the market value for him if they have it. Do they have it?
Yes, they do. 1 year deal, same parameters as Tunny.
3.5 million.
Whoa, not that far off. 3.2 million.
Yeah, something cheap. Yeah, I don't. This one depends on the draft because the Packers are currently mocked on Tankathon to take um, Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia,
Mm.
or they could also take Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. He's in that area. He's
Like like his dad.
yep. Um, he currently plays for the or he's currently or holy moly, he's currently mocked to the Jets at 13. So, like maybe
After Friday at 9:40 p.m. according to
according to me.
Numac.
Um, so like maybe that could be a possibility if they go tackle in the first round. If they go tackle in the first round, I think they don't bring back Yash, and I think they move Tom to center for the future. I think that's like the the way to go. I also wouldn't be surprised if they just move Tom to right tackle and let Yash walk. In the same idea, right? Like say they don't draft a tackle, and they draft a wide receiver or an edge player or anything like that. I just don't think they bring Yash back.
I'm gonna say they bring him back.
Really, for that cheap number for 3.5?
Maybe a little bit above it, but I think they because even if you're doing that, if you commit to like, let's just use that as an example. If
Right.
you commit to some like a deal with him like that,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he's a spot starter, is he your a above average starting tackle? Probably not.
No.
To each their own.
Yep.
But
I know. I know.
I do think to have just some rotational depth
Yeah.
it would be fine enough. I
I
don't
see
know.
your vision. I'm just not. I see your vision, but I want to close my eyes when I see it.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather keep Tom for rotational depth and then draft a different tackle later. At that point, this
Yeah.
is how I see it. Alrighty, that's all the Packers free agents. Should we look at the other teams' free agents and see who we can pick up off the wire? Not the wire. Pick up off the street. No, nobody's signed the contracts yet,
What's up, Derek Carr?
except for Derek Carr. Um, do you want to start with safety since that was kind of where we um, kind of belabored for a little bit during the first part of this?
Let's do it.
A lot of people wanted to go out and sign Jesse Bates, and I am amongst those people. He's I'd say probably the best safety on the market this offseason. Um, the only like the main issue is that he's going to cost a lot. I think the Packers, as I saw it last, have like $8 million in cap they can use without trading Rodgers, and so That obviously wouldn't work because Spotrac has his market value. That's Jesse Bates the third's at about $14 million annually, which would be relatively expensive for to bring a guy in when you've already paying Jair, you're going to need to pay Rashawn Gary, paying Devondre. Like they have some expensive pieces on this defense, and Jesse Bates would definitely shoot up that list of top players being paid on this defense. Kenny Clark, not to mention. Um, so I think he is my pipe dream target because I think you mentioned both of the Bengals safeties are free agents, right? Von Bell and
Yes,
Jesse Bates the third.
yes, they are.
So I'd imagine the Bengals bring back one of them, maybe both if they can, but I think they have to keep cap space open in the future for when Joey Burrow gets like all of the Brinks money backed up to his front doorstep.
Yeah, he isn't that far off from it.
He's not. I think it's next year is his fifth year.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Oh my God.
his next
Yeah,
year.
because he's love in Love's class.
Yeah, so they make the decision on his fifth year this year, and then extension eligible the next year. So yeah, it'll be a big old contract. Big old contract. Um, Jesse Bates, pretty good at the whole safety position, I'd say. He they have him so like to give context in case you guys don't know. Spotrac takes players of similar statistical I guess equivalence and based and like compares what contracts they got in their first like in their similar age deals. So Spotrac compared Derwin James, Minka Fitzpatrick, Justin Simmons, and Marcus Williams deals when they were signed at 26, 25, 27, and 25. Jesse Bates III is just freshly 26. And of those players, Derwin James got 19 million, Minka Fitzpatrick got 18, and then Justin Simmons and Marcus Williams got about 15. So it's around those numbers. But he has like similar stats as the lower guys. He's at looks like just short of 3.5 tackles per game. By far the fewest. I shouldn't say by far. He has 0.16 interceptions per game. It's a weird statistical comparison they got going on here. But catch coverage percent, so like basically how often people are catching balls against him. 76% versus 60, 52, 65, and 68 for Derwin James, Fitzpatrick, Simmons, and Marcus Williams. So he's allowing a lot more catches against them. But he has a middle of the road rating when thrown against him. The average of those four is 68, and he's at 66. So not too bad. So I don't think he gets like Derwin James money. I don't think he gets like Micah Fitzpatrick money. But I could see him coming in at like 14 million as like Spotrac has him, frankly, if that's kind of where they're sitting with these statistical comparisons. I had his his PFF grades up before. I'll have to find them quickly. But did you look into Jesse Bates at all? What did you think?
I did not look at him. I'm also looking on PFF right now, just to vamp a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we saw him last couple of years with the Bengals
Yeah,
and just the state of their defense and big plays they made on their way to the Super Bowl. Even or this past season and stuff like that. Like
2 years ago. Yeah, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Four touchdowns allowed, four interceptions, and four pass breakups. He allowed 29 catches on 41 targets, and he played 800 snaps at safety. So, like, if anything, he's a true safety, as
yeah,
opposed to a guy we're going to talk about in a minute that isn't a true safety, but is labeled as a safety, which is weird. But we'll talk about him in a minute. I think he's worth it honestly because I think like that is really is the last part to shore up for this defense is safety and
yes,
secure it for the future. So I'd say swing for it, but it's just gonna be tough to fit it cap wise. Like I think they would need to 1,000% trade Rodgers in order for them to take a swing at Jesse Bates, and that'd probably be most of your cap, frankly.
Yeah,
So
that's like the probably not dream scenario, but if they are like, okay, this is our big free agent spend, we're satisfied with it, that kind of thing. That is what we're talking about here.
yeah, I think if they bring Jesse Bates in, which I'm giving a slim to none chance of them doing, um,
Yeah,
I doubt they can keep John Reed at that point. They might be able to sneak Keyshawn Nixon in if Keyshawn Nixon isn't asking for a huge deal, but I think he's has leverage to ask for a decent sized deal, maybe like 5-6 million. Um, so it'd be interesting to see. Plus, they have other holes to fill too, right? Like they can't just sign Jesse Bates out of free agency and be done. Like they have other
yeah.
holes they need to fill that can't be filled just by the draft. So, next up on my list is Jordan Poyer. He played for the Bills last year.
Mm,
$11 million market value with a similar valuation to Tron Mathieu, Micah Hyde, former Packer great, Quandre Diggs, and Devin McCourty's 1 year deal. Yeah, they have him at a 3 year, $33 million deal with an average about of 11 million. And it's definitely interesting. Like I was looking at his his page, and of course now I can't find it. I had them all of them set and ready to go, and I clicked off of them. But um, part of the Bills' defense, the Bills, pretty good at defense this year until they got simply decimated by injuries, and you can't really fault them for that. So if you're a part of a defense that was, I'm not gonna say as dominant, but is pretty dominant, I'm gonna
yeah.
be likely to give you a chance. Jordan Poyer's defensive rating was a 65 and a half. He was the 74th ranked safety this year, so not like amazing, but not awful either. I'm trying to see if there's anybody around him from the Packers. It doesn't look like there is too much. But same in the same vein of Jesse Bates, he played a lot of snaps at safety, 509. So he is that safety that the Packers need, and not like Jimmy Ward, who plays for the Niners or played for the Niners. We'll talk about in a second because he's also one of my safety targets. To where he was labeled a safety, but played slot corner.
Yeah.
So for Jordan Poyer, 5 touchdowns allowed, 4 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. Only 86 NFL or quarterback rating when thrown against him. Looks like if I can keep my things properly organized, my tabs. 20 catches on 29 targets for 184 yards. So not like super bad. And
Yeah.
I think he benefited more from having quality corners in the Bills defense.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right. So
Between Tre'Davious White,
yeah.
who's the other guy?
Why you gotta put me on the spot
White.
like that?
I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. I got it. I got it. I got it. We got this. Tre'Davious White and Dane Jackson is the other guy.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Forgot Von Miller was there.
Say it as well.
No, until he got hurt. So, but yeah, they had a nice little secondary in Tre'Davious White, Dane Jackson, Micah Hyde, and Jordan Poyer. Like they were good when they were healthy, and I think he was a big part of that. And again, would be a fan. 11 million leaves you a little more to be desired, or not to be desired, a little more room for other free agency signings. But I think, I guess before we move on, Jordan, do you have any thoughts on Jordan Poyer?
No, I liked him. I remember him. There was like a big thing middle of the season where he just basically talked about like he acknowledged that his time in Buffalo was probably going to come to an end because
Oh, really?
yeah, um, I think he just sensed the feelings around the room of like you can only pay so many people
Hmm.
and they're not going to pay me kind of thing.
Right. So I think it wouldn't be a terrible idea if they did target um, Jimmy Ward. And this is where my prediction from earlier comes in, or my thought process, my idea, my Darnell Savage idea. Excuse me. Um, Jimmy Ward last year played just about all of his snaps in um, in slot corner. 556 of them. Only four lining up as a free safety, and he had 70 in the box, essentially. And then five like as an outside corner. I think if they wanted to really move Razul to safety, this is the way to do it. Find um, a proven guy in Jimmy Ward. You can sign for like a 1 year deal if you want to, and then invest in safety in the draft to start developing them, and just let him kind of work as a slot corner there, and let him play safety if something happens, like depth wise. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, 69 of 85 for receptions on targets for 500 yards. I think like you can live with that.
Hmm.
And people were talking about how like Darnell Savage was doing such a good job at inside corner last year, or not inside corner, slot corner. I was looking at his grades and he didn't really play like slot corner a whole bunch last year. He played most of his snaps at free safety, and they started playing better once Darnell Savage did go to slot corner. But it's not like he
But
played
that was like what week?
17. So he
Yeah,
played
I was gonna say it was so late in the season.
right. They started playing him in week 10 at slot corner. He had 48 snaps there versus 9 at free safety, 32 snaps at slot corner in week 11, and then 1 snap at free safety, and a couple, and then some of the box as well. But in those games, he was grayed out at like middle 50s. That's not that good. Same
Yeah,
thing with the games at the end. He had 32 snaps at slot corner, and I think 25 it looks like in week 18. Like I just don't think that moving him to slot corner is really the answer.
it's not like a permanent
No,
solution.
it's not. Like I think if they keep him, they just let him walk next year anyways at this rate. And Spotrac has Jimmy Ward's evaluation at 7.5 million, which is conveniently what Darnell Savage's is at. And I think if you're going to like pay $7.5 million for a guy at slot corner, I'd rather have the veteran that can be as a stopgap solution for a couple years than to ride out this year of Darnell Savage to be stuck back in the same exact position next year, but have actually no answer because he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Because like I don't want to bring him back if he's not going to be playing a lot better than he did last year.
Mhm.
And so I think you move Razul to safety and let him kind of zone out and have those ball hawking abilities he's able to do out there, but then bring in a slot corner to trade than Darnell Savage. Like I think someone will give you a couple picks for Darnell Savage. Frankly, are they fourth and fifth round picks? Maybe, but I think I'd rather fourth round picks than Darnell Savage at this point. Sadly,
I just did a Rohan face.
I did see the Rohan face.
Yeah, I can already see the screen cap. Um, I cannot think of anything besides you saying that's an interesting scenario. Asset play management. Um, but to your overall point, I totally agree with you. I think just having a veteran stopgap 1 year guy over what they have with Savage is just
Right.
more desirable. Like,
And then take a couple swings on the draft. Like they have Jimmy Ward's market value is a 2 year deal for 15 million. Like just take 4 swings at safety over the next 2 drafts and see where that gets you.
mhm.
Safety slash slot corner, since in this scenario Razul moves to safety and moves to slot corner. But you get the idea.
Yeah,
Start trying to find a safety, an inside corner that can fill this one gap that this defense really has glaring right now. Shouldn't say
yeah.
one. They need edge too, but we'll just talk about a second.
But as far as like your starting 11
Mm-hmm.
goes,
Right. Yeah. So that. Those are my 3 targets, albeit top end targets. But if we're trying to make the playoffs next year under Jordan Love, they're trying to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, then you need to kind of spend that money to fill that hole because that was the hole that was allowing a lot of the passing game problems last year. Which again, run game is probably more important at this point, but I think that gets fixed through development that they have right now versus free agency and draft.
Yeah.
Frankly,
Another name that I saw that I thought was intriguing as well. Jabril Peppers from
I did
New
see that.
England. And kind of graded out pretty well with PFF as well.
Hmm.
Um, 75 grade, 84.6 grade in run defense, which, you know, that's a big area of need to for the Packers to address.
Right.
Definitely doesn't. I wouldn't say he's as versatile as like a Jimmy Ward, or it
Hmm.
doesn't solve the Razul Douglas Stokes Alexander kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for, hey, this guy's an under the radar safety that's hitting the open market and is not that far removed from a torn ACL, but looks to have, you know, been himself.
Hmm.
That's not a bad
Not a bad
option in my
pickup
book.
either. It's not a bad flyer.
Yeah.
I saw Jonathan Abraham as a free agent. It's just like
Yes, he is.
it must not have been too good, otherwise they could have kept him. Like I really wish it would have worked out because that'd have been a great waiver wire pickup, but seemingly not so. Maybe they bring him back. I think they cut him for like an actual player that was being able um to contribute, but I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
It'd be like a vet min deal.
Yeah.
Couple more positions. Edge rusher. I think they do the same thing. I think like anybody they sign at any position this offseason, they're also going to dip into the draft with. Like
Double dip.
that's just how they do it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna say like my big target, but A'Shawn Robinson is a free agent from the Rams, and he's likely not coming back because the Rams are going to be tanking. Spotrac's market value for him is $8 million, a 3-year, $24 million deal. Coming off of a torn meniscus, I wouldn't hate a flyer for him. Like, he's a darn good defensive end edge rusher when he's healthy, and I think he could really be useful as like a either a starter or a guy that plays off of Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. Like I'd be quite happy, frankly, to
Yeah.
to have A'Shawn Robinson on the team.
Yeah. That's a good shout. I like that.
Trying to find a couple stats for him just to make sure.
Is this where I include Jadavian?
I don't think they can afford him, buddy.
No.
And I also think
He has had just the strangest career I have can remember in a
it
very
is
long
it
time.
is pretty strange.
For first, yeah, he was a first overall pick too.
I think he was one overall. Yeah.
He was.
Um, A'Shawn Robinson, no sacks last year, but a few pressures. He only played 10 games before he tore his meniscus. Um, I just think he'd be a talented player that would take some pressure off of Gary and Preston Smith, for example.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't get home, he doesn't get home. Like that's like sacks are the moneymakers, but between Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, and A'Shawn Robinson, that's four pretty good pass rushers
Yeah.
that that you could get home with. So that'd be, like I said, not preferred, but just like, hey, maybe as an idea, take a swing, just a little swing. I don't think you take any home runs besides Jesse Bates, to be frankly clear. Like
Yeah.
I just think that's just they. I don't think they have the necessary tools to take those home run swings with anybody on the other position, frankly.
Yeah.
So
And it's kind of not in their nature.
yeah, that too.
As much as Goody, I was gonna say his name weird. As much as he has changed the perception of the Packers in free agency.
Right. Brandon Graham is a free agent from the Eagles.
Mm.
I don't think I don't think they'll end up getting him. I would guess he probably returns to Philadelphia, but he's a free agent. He had a good year last year on a very good defense. See if you remember this name, Yannick Ngak. Wow,
Ngakwe.
yeah. I don't know how my brain had it. I spoke it right in my brain, and then the brain sent the signal to my mouth. And my mouth was refusing to cooperate. He's available, but he has a pretty big deal, 15 million. Um, Akeem Hicks is an internal D lineman, so he wouldn't really make sense. I don't know why Spalchuk hasn't listed as a defensive end. He played like um, all of his snaps last year as a tackle. But $5 million. If you wanted to like not bring back Jerron Reed, you could go grab a year of Akeem Hicks or 2 years. They have 2 years, 11 million. Don't think we can afford Frank Clark, frankly. $12 million, but he'd be pretty cool to bring back if we could.
You mean to say, frankly?
No, I did not mean to say frankly, but thank you for pointing it out. So,
Uh,
do you have any edge rushers you wanted to highlight in particular?
Dante Fowler
Ooh,
coming off a 6 sack year with the Cowboys. Another kind of weird journeyman guy that not as big of a. He was a top pick though. He was like third overall,
like a
right?
decade ago, right to the Jaguars? No, not a
I
decade ago.
can't think. Yeah, he was first. He was third overall in the 15th draft
Was he drafted by the Cowboys?
by the Jaguars.
Was
Jaguars to the Rams to the Falcons to the Cowboys.
got it. $7 million
That's
for him. Spell track.
$7 million.
Yeah,
Wow.
2 years, 14. So that
Okay,
wouldn't be a terrible idea.
not a terrible idea.
I
Um,
I take him.
yeah, that was another guy that kind of like, oh, I haven't thought about you, but he's actually been kind of good.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree.
See, I don't. I think with these, with like an edge rusher, I would be more willing to. Fowler's not a project; he's pretty much a veteran
He's a
player at
proven
this point.
guy.
I would be more willing to be like, yeah, let's see if this guy can kind of turn into something,
Yeah,
and
I
then
agree.
you can't afford him if it pans out next
Yeah,
offseason. But still,
I would agree with that. I think that'd be not a bad way to go, just for the sole purpose of seeing what he can do. Because you have Rashawn Gary, you have Preston Smith, you have Kingsley Enagbare coming along. Like, if they're healthy, they have like three pretty good pass rushers. If they bring back Justin Hollins, that's a fourth. So
hmm,
you can kind of see where you play with that, and trying to develop a guy. Strictly vibes. Just kind of listing off a couple of receivers because I think they try to bring in a veteran receiver. Wouldn't hate Robert Woods, frankly. Like
that's
I think he
that's a
has a
good one.
lot of value on this Packers team.
They like having familiarity with guys that have been in the system.
Yes, yes, precisely. Nelson Aguilar is a free agent. No, thank you. I'm just not. Have you ever seen the Philadelphia Eagles video of Nelson Aguilar?
Oh, of course,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm out.
Did you see Robbie Anderson got released by the Cardinals?
I did. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel like he's a name, not a player. I feel like him and DeAndre Hopkins are both names and not players anymore.
I
You
Hopkins is still pretty good.
maybe. Like it's a solid maybe. Plus he's old, I think. He's like 31, 32, I think.
The fact that you're saying that's old is so depressing.
You're welcome. But he had the PED suspension
Yes, he
and
did. Yeah.
he's almost 31. And he's on the hook for $20 million next year. $30 million dead cap. And so I don't think we can afford him. And also, I just don't really care to have him on this team. Like, I'd rather spend money elsewhere if we're gonna bring him on, or if I'm trying to get a receiver. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see the point in trading for him. But maybe Robbie Anderson if you get him for something cheap. Like, again, he was with the Panthers from the Jets for a while and was fine when he was young. I feel like I didn't hear about him do anything last year for the
No, that was
Cardinals.
one of the strangest trades too. On top of having already wait, what?
What's your deal?
Oh, sorry. He is formally known as Robbie Anderson. He has legally modified his first name to Robbie Anderson in 2022. And then in February 2023, he again legally changed his first name to Chosen. So we
Ah,
are talking about Chosen Anderson.
Chosen Anderson. My apologies, Chosen. Um, Last year in 16 games, 6 with the Panthers, 10 with the Cardinals. Um, 44 targets on 20 catches and 1 touchdown. So like I think he's a solid like a third string receiver, and would pay him a couple $1 million probably. Like I just don't see the value he has with it. I'd rather get someone better for
Yeah.
sort of that price tag. Um, I'm trying to see. Jacoby Myers is available. I don't think we could really afford him. Chiefs plan bringing back Juju. Um, wouldn't hate a Jarvis Landry signing as like a slot guy,
Yep.
just as like a guy who can catch the ball.
Kind of in that Robert Woods mold of
Yep.
just something reliable.
Yep. Um, just trying to scroll through all these guys. You know who's available? Jordan. It's Jake Kumaro.
Oh, watch him sign up with the Jets.
That's right. Um, Confirmed old T.Y. Hilton at 33 is available. So there's options here. There's options. The corpse of Odell is still available, but I don't think they can
I was
afford
gonna
him.
make that joke of
Wouldn't hate a flyer on there.
Odell.
Wouldn't hate a flyer on Darius Slayton. He has a three and a
I
half.
would say he's always been good.
Yeah,
I think he's been pretty good.
I wouldn't be afraid to throw $7 million at him according to Spotrac. So, any other guys you want to chat about, or should we wrap up here as we go close to an hour and a half?
What? Wow.
I know.
No, I think I'm good. I think, well, we'll make all these deep dives when we come back. Maybe Aaron Rodgers makes a fucking decision. For, for agency will be actually we'll probably come back sooner if Aaron Rodgers makes a decision.
Yep.
So yeah, just a little. That was a little appetizer for
Just
what's
a
to
little bit.
come.
You'll either get an ecstatic Numac and Jordan, or you'll get an apathetic Numac and a rageful Jordan. If when the Rodgers decision comes down, I think that's how we can open it. I think. What about this, Jordan? On the pod, we we if Rodgers decides to come back, I'll let you intro the pod.
Oh,
I
oh,
think I think that could be premium stuff.
that will be arranged. I will
It's like
regrettably
it's like
take
any
that.
cold open. It's like
Yeah,
no pre-roll, uh, no
let's get
pre-roll
into this.
music. Just ready to get into it. All right, folks. Couple of promotions before we head out of here. Um, as we've been mentioning on the last few podcasts, and as you've been hearing on the other GSPN podcast network shows, even though it's redundant, the GSPN shows, because I know you guys all are faithful listeners of all of our shows. We are having a meetup on April 4th to watch the Bucks play the Wizards and the Brewers play the Mets. And we would love to hang out with you guys, have a couple beers, talk sports, just a bunch of sports people. I can't say dude, can't say guys being dudes because we are an inclusive podcast network and we want all
Also, International
men,
Women's Day as we're
women.
recording.
Bring the little kitties. Bring your dog. If you bring a dog, I'll pet the shit out of your dog. But
Tom Brady,
regardless,
bring your cat.
that's right. We want to hang out with you guys and talk shop, essentially. Andrew and Adam are visiting. It is a wonderful occasion. And we just want to hang out, be GSPN family together, and watch some Bucks, watch some Brewers. But we need to figure out how many of you guys are coming. So go over to gspn.info if you're interested in hanging out with us to fill out the form of how much you're interested in coming and your, yeah, I guess, interest level. We want to get as many 100%ers as possible just so we don't overbook or underbook the size of the venue. So April 4th, probably around 6, 7 p.m. We'll start. It'll probably go till 10, 11 o'clock, something like that. Go over there, fill it out if you could. We would really appreciate it. Heading over to the GSPN gamut of shows. Yours truly, was on Eurostep on Sunday talking the Bucks losing their winning streak, but they're back on one. They're back on one because they won 2 games since they lost to the Sixers, right? Yeah, they beat the
Yes.
Wizards, they beat the Magic. But I
We
went
can
on
add
talking
another
with
one.
Ty. Was I?
So we can add another one after tomorrow as we're
Yes.
recording this.
That's why I come out Friday for you folks.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I went on Eurostep and talked Bucks with Ty. Made a spicy takeoff to go check out with Javon Carter, which was proven right in the Magic game, I might add. Um, do you have one in the hopper for winning 6?
No, nothing as of now. There was also the Ty having Matt Moore, the Action Network,
That's
talking
right.
about MVP pods,
Yep.
MVP candidates. Everybody loves to talk about the MVP, award race. There's a lot of opinions out there. There's 4 to 5 weeks left of the season, so this is
Yeah,
the exact time where people go crazy about MVP talk.
that's right.
So yeah, listen to Ty and Matt talk about that.
Right. Cruising for a Bruising previewed the World Baseball Classic as that started, I think, today. Which,
Yes,
like,
yeah,
I forget who played, but I know the Brewers scrimmaged the country of Great Britain
right, right
whipped them in the old baseball.
in the keister.
That's right, in their beans. The Oscars are on Sunday, and I believe Make Time for This a couple weeks ago. I don't know if they did an Oscar. Yeah, they did an Oscar nominee mini pod with breaking down The Quiet Girl and the first ever Irish language nominee. You can go check that out from February 8th. But last week they did drop an episode about Ant-Man, the Ant-Man Quantum Mania, and talked about MCU's dominance sort of coming to an end and what it means for theatrical moviegoing. So go check that out. I think that's every pod, Jordan. Am I right?
Yes,
So,
yeah, that would be. And this one,
and this one, subscribe, rate, review, 5 stars, all that good stuff. I've done that in a while. Go follow me on Twitter, even though it's dying. Go follow Jordan on Twitter at Jordan Tresky at Numac is known. We have discourse. We have opinions. We have memes. We have retweets. Follow Talk with Hundra at Packers GSPN. I think that's it, buddy. You guys will be hearing this on Friday if there's no Rodgers decision. If there's no Rodgers decision, you'll probably be hearing this Monday morning. So give a little inside baseball stuff. So thank you guys all for listening. Can't wait to hop into all the free agency moves next week once tampering begins. So once again, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
thank you.